Hey, thanks for joining. Today we'll be creating Shopify configurator for the product that is using 3D scans. And as you see here, I have a plant model, right? And I can switch between the small and large plants. And I can also switch between the dark and bright modes for the vase. And these all influence also the pricing. So this is a standard way that Shopify works with variants, right? You link variants with prices. And we run 3D Bits application here, which allows us to compose various static assets without using any code, right? This is very important, I think, to realize that you don't need to write any code to achieve these kinds of results. So let's just talk a bit about practical aspects of this, right? Imagine you're a merchant who's running a plant shop. Maybe you're creating hundreds of flower compositions a day, you know, they are artistic, and you really need to present those on your web shop the best you can. You can, of course, use photos, right? And usually that's what is happening. But to give your customers additional experience, to allow them to understand your compositions better, definitely 3D is the way to go. And there's no way that you can hire actually a 3D modeling expert and allow him to create those models, right? This would really cost too much, I think. But if you have a phone nowadays, you can just create these 3D scans of objects really easily by using AI. And in this situation, I used a Scaniverse app. It's free. It's really great. It runs computations on your phone, so you don't need to use any cloud services or anything. You know, it's sort of private. What you're scanning, you really own yourself. And this is a great way to sort of bring those 3D models to life. After you scan these objects, you will need to remove some noise from them. You will have to learn just a little bit of tooling around 3D scan editing, and this is a great one, like Supersplat. This is also a free tool that I'm using to just remove things like, you know, in this case, I removed the vase, I removed the table. I just left myself with, this plant model, and I used that then as an asset in 3D Bits app. So I'll show you just a bit later how that all works. But let's get back to this configurator. As you see, we can change the price by changing the options here, and we have GLTF files for the vases, and we have 3D scans for these plants. And I can enter here 3D mode, I can look around, I can understand how the plant looks and feels, and this is a great way to really experience your products. So of course I gave the example of the plant shop, right? Plants are somehow complex objects that you cannot really model, but I can guarantee that there are more products that people create that are hard to 3D model, or they change too often, right? So then it really makes sense to create 3D scans. So this is it for the introduction, and now we will be creating this configurator from scratch. So what I did, I prepared already those models and I uploaded them to Shopify. As you see here, I'm on the web shop's content category, and here under the files, I uploaded two 3D scans. So small plant splat file, and you should also use splats with 3D Bits app because they are lightweight. As you see, is 2.3 megs and 2.9 megs, something around that range is quite okay, because you know you will need to load them, your customers will need to load them. And also for the vases, I used GLB files, so these are compressed GLTF files, binary files, which are also very lightweight. As you see, 300 kilobytes. So this is just running smoothly as a configurator also on the mobile devices. And to create this configurator, we will not need to write any code. I mentioned that in the beginning, and you will see how we do that by using 3D Bits app and our viewer editor that you can find here when you install the app. We will start from scratch. This is an empty project that we will be creating, and this tutorial is a follow-up for the chair configurator tutorial that also used this viewer editor. I just advise you guys to check it out as well before going into this tutorial, because there I explain how to also link some metafields, and I'm not going to do that in this tutorial because it would just take too much time. So let's get started. Let's first load those plants that we have in these splat files. To do that, you just hit this copy link button here, and I will do that. You see that we have this check mark, and now I will say add model here. You see that it says no URL. We open this tab, we copy paste the URL to this asset, and now if we just hit this update button, you will see that we have this small plant here. And it's just a little bit too small for this scene. So there are two ways how you can solve that. You either make your camera go closer to the plant, or you just increase the scale of this plant. And in this case, I will just increase the scale by 10 and 10 and 10 on Z-axis, and I will hit update. So now you will see that the plant is closer to us, and we can already interact with it here in this 3D view. You see that the background is white, and we can change that. We use this green color background, so we can do that by choosing the color here from the color picker. And I'll do it like this, so maybe some greenish color, a bit saturated, and let's hit OK. So this is it for the plant now. We have this 3D model of the plant, but we don't yet have any variants, and we will say that this plant is actually of size large. So this is a variant matches part of the tutorial. You will see how that works in an instance. But if I hit update now, you will see that in this editor, we get this size large UI element, and we will use it to switch between small and large. But because we don't have a small variant yet, we cannot do that. So let's add another model, and let's use this small plant model. Let's copy the link. Let's go here. Let's open this model URL, let's paste it, and now let's also use 10 for the scale. Okay, and now for the variant, I'll also say size is small. So now I will hit update, and you will see that now I can switch between the small plant and the large plant. This is quite simple, right? Now we loaded two models into our environment, and we can already run a sort of configuration between those, right? If you want to, you can also apply a global rotation on your scene. So you can say here that you want to rotate your scene 10 degrees every second. And if you hit update, you will see that your plant will rotate automatically. I did disable that in the configurator because I thought, maybe the lighting is a bit weird when, you have static directional light and your plant is sort of scanned with the static lighting. And it's rotating, then it's sort of the shadows don't really match the lighting. But anyway, it's really up to you how you set this up. You can also apply rotations for individual models here. You can also have animated rotations for the single models. Okay, but those are details, and you can play with those settings yourself, of course, to experiment. And now let's also add two additional models. Let's copy the link for the dark vase. And let's go here. I'll add a model. I'll say that the URL is pointing to this CDN of Shopify. And I'll say that it is the variant of color dark. Update. You see that this model of vase is really large, right? So our plants are probably somewhere inside this vase. And what we need to do in these kinds of situations is either you sort of scale that model down in some modeling software, right? So that everything matches, or you apply a small scale here in the editor. And in this case, I know already from previous setup that I need to use 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. I hit update, and now this is looking much better, I think, right? But our plant is sort of intersecting with the vase, as you see. So what we need to do is we need to also position this vase a little bit lower to maybe minus 0.8, if I remember correctly. Let's hit update. And now everything looks much better. It's all rotating, and you see that it's actually in 3D, immersive 3D. And now you can also switch between the large and small plant. Okay, this is also still intersecting, so I need to increase this to -1, for example. Let's hit update. Let's see how that looks like. Yeah, this is okay. I don't see any intersections anymore, so this will suit our needs for today. Let's create another model. So let's do that. Let's create the bright vase. Let's copy it. Let's add the URL. Let's again use 0.2 scale for it. And let's move it down by -1 and hit update. So just a small advice on these scalings. If you really need to scale by 1,000 times, or 100 times, I would really advise then to maybe consider scaling that in the original software. Because if your objects get really big in this editor, your lighting may be a little bit off. You will need to adjust more settings for the camera. You might also need to adjust all kinds of bias settings for lighting. So just consider, scaling those to more appropriate ranges in the original software package, and then bring them into this editor. And ideally you might not even need to scale anything. It would just be looking good. So if you keep it on 1, the configuration would be more simple. What you also need to do now is you need to say here for variant matches that we loaded the bright vase. So let's say color variant is bright, and let's hit update. So you see now that I can switch between the bright and the dark modes for the vase, and I can switch which plant I want to load. So small and large, those two are available to us. I will also just disable this rotation. I will hit update because I really like just this mode where I can interact myself with these plants. And from time to time you will need to remember to download your project as a file, because we don't save that automatically. And next time you want to work with that file, you hit upload and you just continue with your configurations. Another thing that is quite important is the camera. So if you hit update, you see that the default camera is quite far away from the object, and let's change that. Let's fix it to be, maybe on -8, -5 on y-axis and -8 on z-axis. I think that will look better. And let's also increase the targets. So this number will indicate where camera needs to look at. And this is a bit too high. So 2. This is probably looking better. I will move my head here. Yeah, this is quite okay, right? It's just a little bit nicer perspective to start with. Maybe it would be nice for these leaves to be facing camera when you start. So in that case, we can either adjust the camera position, or we can also just rotate our large plant a little. So we can give it rotation here, like 90. Let's see how that looks like. Yeah, this is great, I think. These plant leaves are really beautiful, and yeah, let's leave it like this. Okay, so we have these settings now that are all working in concert. Maybe additional thing that I will do is I will add directional light, and this will be on the intensity of 1. That's fine. Let's hit update, and the light only affects GLTF files. 3D scans just ignore the lighting for now. This is how this works, but yeah, it looks quite okay. We have this shadow, we have lighting, and we have all the variants that we need. And now, because we are finished with the configuration here, we can go into the product and create the product itself on Shopify. So I'll just download this file. Okay, so now we don't really need to use these files anymore. We can go into the products, and I'll create a new product here, and I'll call it 3D configurator of plants. And I'll give it a description, beautiful plants. Let's hit save. So after we save the product, we can also choose which template to use. And I have a bunch of templates here from previous tutorials, but I will need to use 3D Viewer. This is the template that I used also with the chair tutorial that I mentioned before. And this will allow me to sort of have the template for this product that is set up to work with viewer editor that we've just used. So I'll just hit save. And now what I will do is I will go here, I will copy to clipboard this configuration, and I will go back here into the product, and I will paste it here into this 3D scene config metafield. If you don't know how to create these metafields, you know, there are other tutorials of 3D-Bits app that explain this. And you can also just use our previous tutorial to understand how to link and configure the template itself. So yeah, you will need to learn those things as well if you want to use these metafields. You can also, of course, create your own product metafields and link those with templates. This is really up to you, but yeah, still, this will be needed. This step is important. So you will need some metafield that hosts your configuration, which you set up here in this viewer editor. So now that we have this, we need to also create variants for the product. Otherwise it will not work, right? Our configuration will not match what we expect from this product. So let's go and create a variant called size. And two options are available, right? So large and small. Let's hit done. So this is one option, and then add another one. And this one is color. And we have two options, so bright and dark. And let's hit done. We will need to add pricing here. So for the large, bright and dark, we will use higher pricing. So let's start with 100, and dark vase will be just more expensive. We have 3 items of each, and we can say that we have here a small, and this will start at 50, and the dark mode will cost 60 euros, and we have also 3 of each. So of course, considering that you're selling plants, probably those are unique and you just have one. But yeah, this is just a tutorial and I'm going fast through it, so forgive me for that. So now that we've created these variants, let's go and click this preview button to look how the product looks like. And you see that it's still empty, although we do have all the variants with correct names. What happens is that sometimes these options get different technical names that you should use in your configuration, and this is actually quite good that this doesn't work, so I can show you guys how to fix this. Let's go here and back into this product, and let's go into this theme template. Let's view the template, and as you see, it has this BITBYBIT viewer block here. So what I can do is go here into these settings, and I can enable debug mode. So this will show me all of the information that exists on this page and all of the option names that are technical. So you will need to use these technical names, and you will need to make sure that you're using input names as variants. This sort of ensures you from any translators that can change the values of your labels, for example. So because technical name is size 1 and color 2, we will need to use those in our viewer editor as well. So let's go here and let's see how that needs to look like. So here we have size, and let's name it size 1 then. Let's also go here into the second. Let's hit size 1 as well. Let's update. You see that the size 1 is being picked here too. And now for this one, we'll need to use color-2, and for the bright vase as well. Let's hit update, and now let's copy this to clipboard again. Let's go back to our product. Let's paste new configuration here. Let's hit save. And now, if updates are correct, let's hit preview, and voila, we have our plant now. So it can take just a little bit of time for your saves to take effect, but now our plant is here, our configurator is set up, and you see that I can choose which plant I want, small or large, and the price is changing, and I can switch between the dark and bright modes for the vase, and this just happens instantly. As you may notice, this configurator is now on top of the page, and this is due to the fact that we have our block here on the top of the product information, but let's just disable the debug mode for now. And you see that the template also picked up the updates. These are all correct. Let's upload the picture. So I uploaded the picture, and now I can just go into the preview. And you will see that our 3D configurator replaces the image and is being rendered on the top of it. And this is because we have this option in the template that you can find here. If you click BITBYBIT VIEWER, we have in the bottom of the options list, we say that we want to prepend our configurator to this query selector. This is a bit technical. This is something for developers probably, but this is a default query selector for Shopify, which will replace the image with your canvas, 3D canvas. Sometimes this doesn't work. Sometimes you use some theme that is custom, and you will need to then find your own query selectors. You may ask, developers for help for this, or just, email me if you really need to understand that better. But yeah, it would be great if Shopify would allow us, to add this block anywhere on your product page, but this isn't how it works. And thus we had to invent our own way to, achieve that. And this is our approach of doing that. So just last thing maybe that I would change in this configuration, you will see that if I zoom closer to the plant, the sort of pixels or ellipses of these Gaussian splats are being shown. And this is, maybe not looking very nice. You may want to limit how far the camera can travel to the object, and you can change that here in this viewer editor. So if you go to the camera settings, and let's see, so here arc rotated camera, and we can just change this radius limit to 10, and let's use this upper radius on 20, update, and you will see that now I cannot zoom more than this to this plant. You may maybe change that to maybe 6, for example, update. So this will allow you to zoom a little bit closer, but not too close, right? And you cannot also zoom further than 20 units of space out, so you never leave your object somewhere floating, and it's always in the center of your scene. So I hope this is also a good advice. And actually, I think with that, we're finished. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative, and you will be able to use this information in your own web shops by serving your own customers and allowing them to experience your products in full immersive 3D. Yeah, let's see each other in the next tutorials. Cheers.